All right. We'll start with questions for Dr. Wood. Please identify who you are and then, of course, your question.
Okay. Hello. Yeah, my name is Farouk Yusuf, and question is for Dr. Wood. If we replace the word Jesus with the word God, as many Christians believe Jesus and God are one and the same, then to claim God died and was raised from the dead does not seem to fit the definition of God, who has no beginning or end. God is not born and does not die. Please explain. Thank you.
Do it from here?
Yes.
Yeah, and you're absolutely correct that if we're saying that Jesus is God and then we say that Jesus died, then a natural question that would arise is, how can God die? God isn't the sort of thing that can die. But you're ignoring something, which is the incarnation, right? Whether you believe it or not, that's how we'd reconcile. And to give you an idea of what this would mean, let me turn to the Quran here for a moment. This is a Quran, and according to Islam, at least if you're an Orthodox Muslim, the Quran is Allah's eternal word. It has no beginning, it has no end, it can't be created, it can't be destroyed. And yet, I open this Quran and it has a publication date, 1994. It's made of paper and glue and ink. It will eventually fall apart. This Quran will eventually fall apart. So think about this. How can Allah's eternal, uncreated, incorruptible word have a beginning and eventually fall apart? And the answer, according to Islamic theology, is that the Quran has two natures. It's the eternal word of Allah, but it enters into our world in a physical form made of paper and glue and ink. And so this Quran has two natures, and since it has entered into our world and taken on a physical form, it can be corrupted, it can be destroyed, even though that wouldn't make sense to talk like that of the eternal Quran. So if that's Islamic theology, I don't know how we can look at John 1:1, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. And since the Word, which was God, entered creation and took on a human nature, then he could die. If you say that's false or illogical or incoherent, I don't know how you would do so without rejecting Islamic theology as well.
And apologies, I forgot to mention, after the 2 minutes for the individual of whom the question is asked may respond, the other debater will have a minute to respond to their response as well. So Dr. Ali.
Sure. So I think David here has fallen into the fallacy of equivocation, in which he has, on the one hand, spoken about the eternal Word of God, and now he's spoken about the Quran as the Word of God, and he's equivocated between the two meanings. So when Muslims say that there is an eternal Word of God, we're talking about this as some attributes of God, that God has reason, knowledge, wisdom. And some of that is revealed in the Quran. It's not, that doesn't mean for us that the Quran is the word of God in the sense that we're going to worship the Quran as we worship God. So the Muslims do not take the Quran as God, as Christians take Jesus. And since Christians do take Jesus as God, that raises the question, how did he actually die? Because God is indestructible and he's not expendable. So if one of the three, the Trinity, dies, then that would mean that two survive and they can run the world. One becomes expendable. But in theology, you can't say that God is expendable.